The day's finally here. Time to crack this thing open, get this thing stripped down. The first thing I'm going to do is take all the the seat, the plastic off, get everything laid out, and start the deconstruction process. So I'm pretty excited. Last night's race was awesome. I don't want to say I called it, but Barsha won. He was looking great all day in qualifying. I watched the qualifying earlier. I saw it coming, man. He was on fire. He was intense. So that was awesome. It was a good race. Can't wait for Tuesday. So I got everything squared away and ready to go. So I'm going to start stripping this bike down, and man, let's get it. Alright, so it's stripped down pretty far now. Let me show you what we got now. Got the wheels off. They definitely have not been off in a while. Actually, I just beat the axle out. It's never good when you have to use a hammer to get your axle out. So this thing's going to need some work. You can see somebody before me had their way with a hammer and the axle. So we'll fix that. We'll get this all squared away. If not, axles are not that expensive. Have a couple in stock just in case shit happens, because it does. They're not that expensive. But we got it stripped down. I'm going to get the exhaust off next. There's no coolant in it because it was stored outside, so I didn't want anything freezing up. That's a bad day. So we'll get the exhaust off and probably drain the oil, and then we'll start taking things off like the bars, forks, the triples, swing arm. We'll just start breaking it down even further until we got nothing but a frame and a motor. Alright, here we go. Getting greasy. Love it. So yeah, some of the stuff definitely was not torqued. Well, at least not to any specification. I think it was somebody was using the torque stick on their forehead when their vein was popping out, that was a good torque. Some of the stuff was pretty seized on there. Got the swing arm off, exhaust off, carburetor, airbox, subframe, forks, good to go. Next thing I do, I'm going to take the radiators off, all the radiator hoses. I'm going to take the triple clamps off and check the bearings, make sure the bearings are good and they don't need to be replaced. If they do, that's fine. I just got to get them ordered. Radiators look to be in okay shape. There's a few, fins that have, got dinged by something or other, and you can send these out to like ICW. They do a great job refurbishing and strengthening your radiators. But being that I am going to be selling this bike, I'm not going to put that kind of time and effort into it. When they work just fine, just heads up, if you wanted an option, you could send them to ICW. They will fix them, make all these fins nice and straight. I'll still attempt, with a screwdriver and try to straighten some of them out. But ICW will take and refurbish the whole thing and add bracing. They'll add. I had a set that had an extra tank, kind of welded on the bottom here, gave it a little bit more capacity. Those were a nice set of radiators from ICW, and then somebody was leaning my bike against the wall and trying to kick it because they couldn't kick it because they had short little feet, and bouncing the radiators off the wall and poked a hole in them. So those ones are no longer. I could have sent them back, but I needed to get a set real quick, so I don't remember what I did with them. It might be in storage somewhere, but anyway, let's move on from radiators. So when that stuff comes off, the motor has a few mounts. We got this one here. Take these 2 bolts off in that one. Same thing on this side. Slide that out. And you got one here. And you got one down there. The one out of here is already gone. And then the motor will come right out. So, making pretty good progress. Let's get at it. Alright, so there's the motor out of the frame. I didn't film it, to be honest with you. I struggled with it a little bit. I did forget to take these connectors off, so I was monkeying around with that. And, the Kickstarter, back then, I don't know when the last time that was off, but I had to do some things that were not so conventional. I'm not going to tell you what happened. But it's off now. I got a table full of parts. Underneath I got all the bigger parts. Plan now is to clean up a little bit, pick up my tools, or at least rearrange everything. I got this all squared away, ready to do the frame job on it. It's not terrible, that's not bad. It's a 2008, so I mean it's gonna have some, but we'll get it all cleaned up. We'll Scotch Brite it. Simple green, and then my secret weapon, Goo Gone. This stuff works really, really well with the Scotch Brite pad, so I'll probably end up using that. And then we'll start getting the motor going. I don't know if I'm going to do that today. I might just end up picking everything up for today. We'll see, but that's going to be the next step, is getting this thing broke down. And do yourself a favor, public service announcement. Don't leave safety wire like this. I'll show you a little bit more detail how I do safety wire that I learned from Sean Sweeney and Tyler Sweeney. Leaves no burrs behind. But wrestling with this motor, what do you think, poked me like 90 fucking thousand times. So yeah, I'll show you how to do that later too. What's happening? It's the next day. I did a lot of work yesterday. Got it down to just a frame. I got my table full of parts here, and the motor's up here on the counter, ready for disassembly. So that's what we're going to do today. Obviously, top to bottom, we'll just start taking it apart. I'll clean things up as I take them apart, or I'll probably end up just doing it. After everything's disassembled, I'll spend the time to clean everything. Obviously, on the assembly process, we'll make sure everything's nice. But that's what we're going to do today. So let's get at it. All right, so we'll start the disassembly process. Get fresh batteries here. Start with the chain tensioner. Break that loose while it's in there. There we go. Chain tensioner off. These bolts here. Perfect. Sometimes you gotta put a little heat on these things to Loctite it on. Probably be able to get it. Alright, a little bit of heat did the job. Now this is getting a brand new head, so the valve shims are going to be completely different than what they are now, but at least if you put them down in order, you'll be pretty close, and it'll help things, help the process out a little bit. Also, if you're not planning on doing a brand new head and you're just disassembling, it's always good to put stuff down the way they came out. Make sure you know where your left intake is, the right intake, exhaust, vice versa. So that's what we're doing. It's not a bad idea to write everything down as you go, what the shim sizes were in case things get mixed up or confused or whatever, but I've done this once or twice, so I'm pretty confident in the way I do this. So cam assembly's off. Now we're going to work on getting the head off. I'll pop the valves out so you can see it, but you might be able to see right in there the seats are just kind of deteriorated. They'll do that from use anyway, but this bike, I know back in the day when it used to be ran in its heyday, we used to use fuels like U4 and MR12, like really like caustic stuff, and that stuff will do some damage on valve seats. So it's not surprising. And I don't know if this is original or what. I mean, it could be. I don't know. But yeah, that's the reason why it's getting a new head. All right, next let's get the cylinder off. Cylinder looks pretty good. No abnormal wear in it. Still has some cross hatching going on. Perfect. We'll clean this up and reuse this. Alright, get the piston off. Reach in here. It's a circlip that goes around both sides. Just pick a side, pop it out, and slide the pin through. Piston's not terrible. It's got some wear on the Teflon on the sides, but that's normal. A little bit of carbon, but nothing too crazy. That's good. You hear that? It's not supposed to do that. Alright, let's get this case cover off. These are some pretty corroded looking fasteners, so get this thing cleaned up. Probably end up putting some new fasteners on there. I in good conscience could not give somebody a bike that looked like that. Alright, right side case covers off. Now I'm going to get the clutch off and start disassembling the gears off of the right side of the motor. Basket's in pretty good shape. I don't see any grooving from the fingers. So that's awesome. Clutch is off. This is what we're left with here. Pop this off before I forget about it and it falls somewhere. Just the collar and the roller bearing that goes on the back side of this. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pull off the gear shift shaft that goes through the cases. Then we'll pull this idler gear off. Then we'll pull the Kickstarter out. And then what we'll be left with is the shifting mechanism. This is attached to the back side of your shift drum. And then this is your crank, and this is your counterbalancer. A special socket that you use to take this off. I'll show you what it looks like. It's a socket with like a crown on the top of it. Each one of the crown points goes into one of those holes. Yeah, and we'll zip this off. Alright, let's get it. Careful when you take this apart. There's a couple of springs inside there that like to go flying. It's not that hard to put back together, just really easy parts to lose, so keep track of them. I was afraid of that. You have to get you one of these right here. Fits right onto here. Alright, get you one of these. That's what it looks like. You can buy them on, I'm sure, Amazon by now. I've had this one for a while. But when I didn't have one, I borrowed it from my local Honda shop, More Damn Honda. So if you go to a local shop, they might have one you can borrow if you just need it for a minute. That's that. Do not hit this with a screwdriver and try to turn it like a spanner on a shock or a triple tree or something. I guess if desperate times come to get it off, but you're not going to want to reuse it. So don't do that. Get yourself the socket. That's the disassembly of the right side. So this is what we got left with here. The back side of the shift drum. And this is a little detent arm under spring pressure that gives some kind of tension onto the shift drum. I don't need to take that off. However, if you do need to take that off, 10mm bolt, it'll come out. There's a washer in there too, don't lose that. That'll take all the pressure off the shift drum for you, but that's not necessary for the process we're going through right now. Alright, so I just popped off the ignition cover, and there's some pretty nasty stuff in there. So right off the get-go, you can see all this garbage sitting down here, and then on the pickup, looks like one of those frickin' T-1000s from Terminator. Man, it's crazy. So as you can imagine, in here is pretty dirty too. So that's good that we're taking this apart. We'll be able to clean out the oil pump, we'll be able to clean up the oil pickup, and make sure all the oil passages are good and clean and good to go. So just wanted to show you that real quick up close. It's pretty nasty. Alright, well, let's get the flywheel off. Alright, first step is you want to get the nut off the flywheel. Washer. Then you're going to need a flywheel puller. That's the right one. So it's got two parts. This goes on the end of your crank. This goes onto the threads on the flywheel. You suck this down and it pops the flywheel off. There it is. Take these, oh yeah, all kinds of garbage. Everything's going to get cleaned. Keep it all together. That's what I do. Be able to get your cam chain out of there now. Which, this one's actually not that bad, but we got a new cam chain, so this thing will be in the garbage. Chain guide. There's a bushing in here, so don't lose the bushing. Okay, get that off. You've got your pickup pipe hold down. Get rid of that. Okay, counterbalancer should be able to come out. It's kind of a keyed shaft, so if it doesn't come straight out, just spin it until you find the spot. There it goes, where it wants to come out. Counterbalancer shaft. Okay, oil pump is next. Take the circlip off. Oil pump gear. This little dowel pin that goes through the shaft. It keys that on. Good to go there. Now we'll get this feed pipe out of here. There's a hold down right there. Spin that out. Boom. This pipe should come right out of here. Let's see. Not terribly full of garbage, but there. Oh yeah, there's some sludge. Look at the metal pieces right there. All right. Woo! Because that's what you do when that comes on. Alright, so that's all you need to do to get to the point of splitting these cases apart, which is where we're at. So I'll set you down and we'll start zipping some bolts out and take this thing apart. Just the way the ignition cover came off, the dowel was pretty stuck on there. I'm assuming that the front of the motor here, this one here, and there's one here, one on the back side, I'm assuming that those are going to come out just as hard. So it'll be a bit of a struggle, but we'll get it apart, and then when I put it back together, I'll show you what I do to make sure that it's not such a pain in the butt when it's time to do it again. Alright, so let's get this thing separated. Gotta keep it separated. Alright, outside bolts. Some of these have copper washers on them, so pay attention to that. I'll show you when I assemble it. The cases have a little triangle that tells you which holes need the copper washers. Double check. Okay. Alright, so we've got the case half off. Lots of cleaning up to do. Doesn't look terrible though. Alright, so now that the case half is separated, I can take out this part of the stuff here. We got the crank, transmission, oil pump should be just sitting here. So there's the oil pump. Should be 3 pieces. There's that piece, that piece. Take a look and we'll clean this up and take a better look at it. We want to make sure there's no marring from junk going through on either side. So you got your crank and transmission. So let's get this stuff out of here, and then we'll just be left with the case half. That's a Hot Rods crank, so this is obviously 2008, shouldn't be an OEM crank, still in there, but this says Hot Rods on it. And I don't even need a set of feeler gauges to know that that thing is out of spec. And then we'll take dowels out, and the shift forks. take the transmission assembly out now. Pull out the counter shaft here. Shift fork. Shift fork. There. Thrust washer. Bearing. A very slippery gear. Fits over that. And another washer. So there's transmission assembly. Take a closer look at it, but for now, I'm just going to put a couple zip ties on the end here so nothing goes flying anywhere. So now that all the loose parts are out of the transmission, we can flip it over. We'll take the shift drum off. Shift drum. The other shaft comes out. Full assembly back together so you keep track of it. Alright, this is what we're left with now that the transmission's out and the shift drum's out. This one-way oil flapper here, peel that out of there. That's for sure going to be cleaned. Yeah, wow, there's nice pieces of chunks of metal in here. Man, this thing ate something. It ate something. That looks terrible. Let's see if it's magnetic. Oh yeah, so it's steel. Whatever it was it ate, it was steel. So I'm going to guess that these are probably bearing fragments off the inside of that crank. Look at that. Yeah. Bleh, bleh. That's good stuff. Alright. So for now, this is done for today. Next step is going to be cleaning everything up and inspecting everything. There's lots and lots to do as far as that goes. Cleaning all the gaskets off, cleaning the cases, getting them ready to be prepped for that wrench rabbit kit that picked up for it, which includes all the bearings and seals. So we're going to replace all of that stuff. And then anything else that as we're cleaning we find that needs to be replaced, I'll start a list. Shouldn't be anything. I was looking somewhat close at everything on the way out of the cases, and I like the shift forks look good. The drum looks good. There's no abnormal wear on the drum. All the teeth on the gears look great. Sometimes you'll find like 5th and 4th gear will get roached on those, but everything looks good there. So I think it's just a matter of cleaning up. Where's that? I did, however, on the tube that the oil pickup, there's a hold down. So on this tube here, after you put it in the cases, a hold down, it sits in those grooves. I noticed that when I took it all apart, it's missing a little bit of an ear there. Obviously that's not the metal that's in there, it's probably a little bit of it, but there's a lot more metal in there than what's missing here. But I did find that piece. It's right here. I don't know if you can see that. there it is. So I'm pretty sure I have one of those hold down pieces in my parts toolbox. I got so many parts in there, it's ridiculous. If I had a set of cases, I could probably build a whole motor out of what I got in there. But so yeah, we'll do that tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow. I might wait till this weekend. It's a short 4-day work week for us, so I think I'm just gonna wait till this weekend and come down here and start cleaning this up. But that's the motor disassembled. That's us ready to rock, get things cleaned up, and start building. So everything seems to be going well so far. Knock on wood. All right. So we'll see you guys on the next one, and thanks again for watching. See ya.